Mercedes-AMG C43 Sedan. Let's take a look and see what type of equipment and price. A 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that's kind of small, but with hybrid assist and a bunch of turbos, 402 horsepower, that's pretty impressive. 369 pounds-feet of torque, ride control suspension, rear axle steering, all-wheel drive, 4MATIC. Looks impressive. Got all kinds of comfort and convenience goodies. And the starting cab looks pretty reasonable. However, I see we have lots of options. Let's see, paint job, leather, and carbon fiber trim. Off to a big start here. But wait, there's more. And more. I'll just scroll down real quick. And the long price list. A big jump from 59 grand. That's 22 options in case you didn't count. Here's the clean fuel economy. We'll be taking this out in the real world, racking up some miles to see what it really is. And let's see, the engine and transmission is from Germany, but the assembly point, South Africa. Learn something new every day. So let's take a look at this baby, and on the outside looks like any other less expensive CLA model until you get up close. You see the turbo electric emblem and the AMG badge. Instead of CLA, it says C43. So all your neighbors will know you fucked up the big bucks. And the first thing we do, we get a vehicle check to see what brand of tires they're issuing. Make sure we get something decent. And these are Michelin's Pilot Sport 240. Let's see what that says. 245/35 in the front and 265/30 in the rear. And the second thing we do, check and see if there's a spare tire. At this price, you would think so. Nope. And as always, we take the headlights out in the dark and do a night drive so they perform. We already did a video on that, posted on YouTube. Didn't see that? We have a link for that at the end of this video. Mercedes has some very, very nice headlights issued lately. I wonder if these are just as good. And among the glare, it says LED high performance. And we already showed you the specs and fuel economy claims on the price sheet, but just to show you what's under the hood, it's pretty cramped under there. Hard to believe it's a tiny little 2-liter with all the turbos and the 48-volt electric motor or battery, whatever you want to call it. Let's just say there's a lot of stuff under here. There's poor mechanics. And poor you if you have to foot the bill out of warranty. And a plaque that says this is handcrafted by Luca Profetto. Am I pronouncing that right? I don't know if it makes it better, but if the engine blows up, you know who to blame. And I see by the excess wear on the edges that some goober took this out on a racetrack and drove it pretty hard before I got it. It wasn't me. Let's take a look at some of the controls inside. Here's the camera system, very high quality. See what this does. That's the forward camera. Now we have the 360-degree setup. Amazing how they do this. Looks very sharp. And people make comments occasionally, how come your car is so dirty? This is the desert. Lots of dust, high wind. I just cleaned this morning. There's nothing you can do about it. You clean it, 10 minutes later, it's right back. It's the way it is. So, continue on. Press this. And that's for your drive modes. Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, or individual, where you can program individual things. Pretty simple to use. You can also choose the type of gauge cluster you want. Here's the Classic, the Sport, the Super Sport. That's a new one. I haven't tried this before. Must be exclusive to this particular vehicle. By the way, you can also pull up navigation in the gauge cluster. I don't know why, because you have navigation over here, one for the right eye, one for the left eye. I'm not sure why they do that. It's there if you like that. There's also a track pace, which is hard to see because of all the glare we have at the moment. And I'm glad to see the pedal shifters are on the steering wheel where they belong. They can always be reached regardless of whether you go in a straight line or corners, where if you put them on the steering column like the Italians do, they can only be reached in a straight line, which is kind of stupid. They're always reachable here by your fingertips. That's where they belong, not on the steering column. So Mercedes got it right. And you press this and you have menu for head-up display, Parktronic, lane assist, block trunk access, interior protection, toy alarm, active steering assist. All this is very easy to use once you learn the system. It doesn't take that long. Which is a far cry from the Mercedes from a decade ago. It took an engineering degree to do anything. They made a lot of nice improvements. Decent room in the glove box, and I'm glad to see we don't have the perfume dispenser found on other vehicles. At least if it's in there, I don't see it. Now, just one word of warning on this vehicle, even if you have it in the comfort mode. And ordinarily, Mercedes says comfort, it means you have comfort, a smooth ride. On this particular vehicle, that's not the case. It's got a very stiff, jarring ride. And there's one reason for that. Mercedes wants you to run 41 pounds of air in the front and 48 in the rear, which is insanely high. That's primarily for high-speed Autobahn cruising, 150 miles per hour. For driving under 100 miles per hour, you really don't need these ridiculously high tire pressures, and they will jar you with a stiff ride if you do so. In this particular case, somebody before me lowered the tire pressures, evidently in an attempt to smooth out the ride. We got 39 in the rear and 34 in the front instead of 48, 41, and even then the ride is very jarring. Once I reset the tire pressures to where they're supposed to be, it can't get any better. It's just the price you have to pay for a performance car putting out this much horsepower. Did I mention this has rear wheel steering? It was on the price sheet if you didn't read it. That's what we've got. That, along with all-wheel drive, should provide some fantastic cornering ability. And the size of these disc brakes is absolutely massive. I don't think we'll have an issue stopping either. This is definitely a performance vehicle, has all the specs. We're going to take a highway trip, see what type of fuel economy we can get off this rig. So let's do it. I mentioned earlier this Benz has an extremely stiff ride. You'll notice it in the streets with all the potholes. If you get on the freeway, it's a lot smoother, especially if you have a smooth highway. However, if you don't feel every bump, you'll certainly hear it. And if you push up the tire pressures to the 41, 48 required, you'll hear it even more. Just the price you pay for a performance car. So at 75 miles per hour cruising in the comfort mode, we're pulling 1800 RPM on the engine. Like so. Put in the sport mode. Well, it was 2200, but dropped down to 1800 again. And Sport Plus mode. Yeah, it's pretty much going to stay at 2200, which means it's using more gas. There we go, 27.6 mpg. And the 69 miles per hour is because I've been sitting idling here for a little while. We're actually doing 73 miles per hour. Got all kinds of cool stuff coming up on the info screen here when you're driving. Alright, let's forget about fuel economy. Let's take this out and do some driving. Ooh, this baby's got power. Good thing we got some strong headlights. You need it for a quick car like this. I've noticed when you put the car in Sport or Sport Plus mode, the exhaust gets a lot louder, but whether it's a real sound or something being piped in through the speakers, I can't really tell. Although there is a bunch of popping and crackling coming out of the exhaust pipe when you let off the throttle, so who knows, but it sounds good, so that's all that matters, right? It's on curved roads like this that makes manual shifting fun, which is why it's a good idea to have paddle shifters on the steering wheel like we do here, so they can be reached in corners. If you put them on the steering column like the Italians do, you can't reach them in corners, only a straight line, which makes the whole setup kind of stupid. So having them on the steering wheel is the way to go. Mercedes got it right. Well, I've complained about the ride quality on this vehicle various times in the video, but I certainly can't complain about the handling. This thing really sticks to the road like a slot car. Very, very nice. I don't know how fast you have to go to spin this out. I'm not going to find out. It would certainly take a lot. Oh yeah, and these brakes are fantastic. I don't think it's possible to overheat them. I'm not going to drive through the river in a $75,000 Mercedes, so it's flooded. I guess we'll have to go the other way. You can hear the phone call now. Hey Mercedes, your car caught a nice bath as it floated down the river. I don't know where it went. If you're driving in a hurry, this is the car for you. It'll get you there in no time. And that's the end of our trip. We're heading back to town, and we want to keep the cruise control on. See if we can bump up the miles per gallon versus the figure we got on the trip out here. So don't go away. And there we go, 31.8 mpg. Better than last time. So that's my take on this Benz. It's a nice vehicle if you can afford it. I was very impressed. Here's our headlight test and night drive video come up. Just click and watch.